Good morning to everyone from beautiful California. My name is Raj Singh. It is my great pleasure to introduce my friend, Mr. John Mattson. He has an extensive experience in career management and retirement planning at several prestigious institutions in the United States. And some of them are the Fletcher School of Tufts University, Questrom School of Business at Boston University, Middlebury Institute of International Studies, the Wharton School's EMBA program, the Actors Fund of America, AGSM, UCR School of Business. He will tell you more about himself. With that, let's welcome Mr. John Mattson. John, take it from here.
Great. Well, if you can advance to the next slide, Jag, that'd be great. Great. Let me talk a little bit about what we're going to be.
Go
too
back.
Fast.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to learn about reimagining and managing your lifestyle and work options for you in your retirement years. Learn how to find a job, part-time job, or volunteer opportunities in retirement. We're going to review recommended resources and readings, and then we'll do a Q&A afterwards. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening with baby boomers, because this is the largest group of people who are retiring currently. They were born between 1946 to 64. They're currently ages 56 to 74. They're not retiring like their parents or grandparents did. It's a very different world today. From 2020 to 2030, 10,000 people in the US will retire daily. That's an awful lot of folks. Average savings for a person age 65 is around $144,000. And that is not a lot of money for people who are retiring. Average Social Security monthly payment for the US is about $1,400. For California, it's $950. Age 66 of the people age 65 will continue to work part-time and full-time because they really don't have a lot of savings. And people are living longer, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And 25% of the people who live to 65, 1/4 of those will be living to 90. As you can see, the populations from 1935 to 2014 and 2035, the living expectations are going to equalize in 2035, with women and men living to be age 84. Peter Hazlitt wrote a book called A Fresh Map for Life, and he breaks down the ages of life into the first act, ages 1 to 21, your second act, ages 22 to 62, and your third act is 63 to 85, and finally, dependency and poor health, ages 86 and 86 and beyond. So retiring during a pandemic is, I think, particularly challenging these days. People are feeling isolated, lonely, adrift. So don't be too hard on yourself retiring during a pandemic. These are very unusual times. Many people are experiencing depression and or anxiety, and I recommend seek help if you think it could be useful to you. Deferring plans such as regarding travel, volunteering, and doing bucket list items is taking place. People are cloistered at home right now. Changing the ways we shop for groceries and consumer goods is taking place. Communicating with friends, family, basically by phone or Zoom calls. Cooking and eating at home much more frequently now. Putting off non-emergency medical appointments. Getting COVID-19 or getting sick or fearing getting sick from it, and wondering what the future will hold for our economic, social, political, and business conditions. So there's a lot on people's minds. The many areas of life that we need to consider for our future, especially during retirement, is our health and fitness, financial well-being, family and life obligations, friendships and social life, spiritual life, learning, leisure and recreational activities, work or volunteerism, legacy that you want to leave behind. Nancy Schlossberg, a University of Maryland emerita professor and author of 10 books on retirement and life transitions, commented about retirement. Your identity and purpose and relationships are all in flux. When anything is going wrong, ask 3 questions. Can I change it? Can I change the way I see it? Or can I reduce my stress around what's taking place? So I think this is very, very good advice to follow. How to best deal with life's challenges during retirement, whether you're facing more isolation at home or looking for a job. You have to first understand the challenges we face, realize the situation. Sometimes we feel like we're all alone living at home these days and wonder, what is the rest of the world doing? Well, they're living at home too. So sometimes it's good to think about, what is the challenge that we're facing, and then identify and explore options. It's very, very important that you really identify what you need to change and not change everything all at once, but in baby steps. Sort of evaluate the best opportunities and then make decisions about those. Implement your actions, evaluate the results of your choices and actions, and then continue to monitor and manage those results. And then finally, deal with new challenges that come about, because there will always be new challenges. Embracing a new paradigm for your future, I think, is important. So I would ask you, what comes to mind when you think about work or volunteering in the future? Developing an encore career, creating a new stage, either a second or third act, depending upon how you want to define that. And many retirees these days are seeking to combine 1, personal meaning in what they do in their work, 2, social impact, and 3, continued income by seeking work. One of the things that I did when I retired from the University of California, Riverside in July, is I started a consulting firm online called careercoachconsultants.com. And I provide career coaching to individuals who contact me. So that was one way that I was able to deal with, changing into something new, but doing it on my time basis. So ask yourself, what are the most important and meaningful things or qualities I want in my life over the next 5 years? I think that's a big question to ask yourself. And then create a list of your top 10 items. These topics can be very helpful in finding your next career opportunity, leisure, hobbies, or other kinds of activities you can pursue. Let's talk a little bit about self-assessment. And I came up with this acronym a number of years ago when I was the director of career services at the Boston University Questrom School of Management's Career Center. And CIVIL stands for the following. We'll take a look at that on the next slide. The C stands for competencies, or in other words, what are your skill sets? I stands for your interests. The V stands for your values. And the second I stands for your income needs. And finally, L stands for your lifestyle preferences. So it's very, very important that you get a bead on what are your CIVIL qualities at this point in life. What do you want from a job or volunteer experience is important to ask yourself. Is it for money, learning opportunities, socializing with friends, utilizing your skills and talents, acting as a resume builder, probably not so much at a retirement stage, to gain experience, medical coverage, benefits, be challenged, be creative, making contacts, contribute to society, or even some kind of status or prestige. Once you leave a job, sometimes you feel like, well, now I don't have a title anymore. I don't have a place to go to work. So it's very, very challenging sometimes even on that front. Job search strategies for finding the right job or volunteer gig for you. Here are the options that you can explore. You can work full-time again after you've retired, or you can do it on a part-time basis, or like I did, start a small consulting firm, or do freelance work, perhaps in graphic arts or some kind of artwork, or even writing, that type of thing. Owning your own business is often a way for people to see themselves in the future. I was working with somebody who was retiring a number of years ago, and he opened up a very successful handyman business. And he went around people's homes in the neighborhood that he lived in the towns abutting his town. And he created a very successful handyman business. And he was a retired executive from Hollywood in the recording industry. And he was back in the Boston area when he came to see me. Volunteering, certainly that's a very big thing that most retired people do at one point or another. Doing an internship, believe it or not, or apprenticeship for further education or training. Sometimes you want to pick up a new skill and you might need some experience in order to market yourself. Maybe creating a job share opportunity. You can do that at various stages of life. I did this back when I was in the Connecticut area, and I was doing my private practice, but I also wanted a full-time, part-time, not a full-time, but a part-time steady opportunity. So I proposed an opportunity with a friend of mine, and we were hired by the University of Hartford to do a job sharing opportunity in their career center. Developing a portfolio career. This is really performing several jobs at the same time. I think when I was doing that job share, I was also doing some consulting. I was also the head of the singles ministry at a particular church. So I was doing a variety of different things that would support my consulting work that I was doing. Growth sectors of employment for 50 plus people, educational professionals, healthcare workers, writers, editors. So there's a laundry list here of good opportunities that might be a little bit different than what you've thought about in the past. But I think one of the key things here is the third one, nonprofit organization worker. A lot of people have retired from maybe a corporate setting, and they don't think about working in a nonprofit necessarily. But nonprofits are usually run on a very lean budget. So they're looking for people oftentimes because people go in and out of nonprofits fairly quickly because they tend to be lower paying jobs. But nonprofits would be good. On the other column, casino worker. And this doesn't mean necessarily working on the floor of a casino. This could be working as an accountant in the operations team, sort of the back room team. And casinos have a very difficult time actually finding good workers. And the reason for that is that workers have to pass a drug test and a background screening test and a financial background screening test. So those three tests eliminate a lot of applicants to casinos. So that could be a very, very important place that you could find a very interesting job, even on a part-time basis, I think. I think, some of these things are not relevant today, like cruise ship jobs. They're great jobs to have, whether they're on board or on shore, but not during a pandemic. I heard the other day that the major cruise lines are planning to start cruises in the fall. So they've canceled them for this spring and summer. So those are a couple of ideas. And on the next slide, we'll take a look at some more opportunities. For example, retail sales. Again, that is often taking place, and sometimes you can do retail sales online. So you don't necessarily have to do selling from a building. Another one here is college professor part-time, especially people who may have been in the academic world and they want to maybe teach on a part-time basis. Community colleges, for example, in California are excellent places to be a part-time adjunct instructor, and they pay $40 to $60 an hour for those part-time adjunct roles. Also, standardized patient here. A lot of people have not heard about this, but this is working with medical schools or medical test facilities for foreign educated doctors. And a standardized patient is a person who plays the role of a patient. So you can get a job, and these jobs pay anywhere between $20 to $40 an hour, and they give you a script to learn, and then you have your interns from the medical schools examining you, and they say, what's your problem? And you go through the script that you've been given, and they have to figure out what your diagnosis is. The same thing applies to services that credential foreign-born and foreign educated doctors. So those are very lucrative positions if you can find them, actually, on a part-time basis. On the next side, on the next side of the right side here, tax preparer, especially right now during tax season, is very, very popular. And also dog walkers or pet sitters. A lot of dogs and pets need to be, taken care of. So that's another opportunity. So there's a variety of opportunities here that you have to consider. Some may be not good for you, others may be a perfect fit. What are employers looking for? This is an interesting list I found online. And the thing that they say most often is energy. I want somebody who's energetic. So I think a lot of employers are thinking people who are retired, they don't have as much energy anymore. So that's one of the things they're looking for from retired people. Skill sets that create value and get the job done. So you may have to retool. If you've been in one profession and now want to work in another field, you may have to take some certificate classes, or maybe even get an associate's degree in a specialized field if you want to do that. And they're looking for also up-to-date technology skills. Curiosity. They want people who are curious to learn the new industry, the new job. And they want somebody who's willing to learn. A lot of people who are retired say, look, I've been there, done that, just let me do what I have to do. But they want to see you eager, willing to learn something. They want you to be a good fit into the department and organization. They want you to be enthusiastic to work with younger workers. Sometimes a lot of people who are retired have a difficult time fitting in with a 20 or 30-something group in a new work environment. So again, that's something that they screen for before they hire you. Humble, not a know-it-all. I think, we can get into the position of feeling like we know everything at the age of 65, been there, done that. So don't let that come through in any kind of interview. And also be of good health and physically fit. That's an added bonus if you can bring that to the table. Here are some resources for work options. Encore.org is a very good organization. AARP as well. You've got volunteermatch.org that matches people up to volunteer opportunities. Carrie Hannon is an author who has our website, and it's very interesting, a very good website. And then there's an interesting website called retiredbrains.com. And this is more suitable, I think, for maybe consulting opportunities in different companies. Working remotely. Many of us who are continuing to work are working remotely. Even people who have recently retired, such as myself, are working remotely. Well, here are 3 resources: flexjobs.com, remote.co, workingnomads.co. These websites will educate you and tell you about opportunities that are available for working from home. So this is a great handy list to have. Recommended books. Again, Professor Schlossberg in the earlier slide, she's written 10 books, so you may look up some of her books that she's written. But the Encore Career Handbook by Marcy Albahor, this is a very, very good book. Life Reimagined by Richard Leder and Alan Weber. This book offers a variety of options for reinventing your life. Great Jobs for Everyone 50 Plus, finding work that keeps you happy and healthy and pays the bills. This is Carrie Hannon's website that I mentioned. And this book talks about a wide range of jobs, from simple hourly workers to professional jobs. The Big Shift is about navigating the new stage beyond life by Mark Friedman. This is a really excellent book, which describes how to make your life more meaningful while living the last half of life. He belongs to an organization that you'll learn more about if you take a look at his book. That's a very good organization for people who are looking for work older in life. Find meaning in an imperfect world. I thought this was an interesting, interesting book to share. It's by Ido Landau. And this book is about finding the meaning of life. And the good thing is that you can find the meaning of life at any point in life, even when you're retired. And you may get some sort of new hints about things to look at differently from this book.
Great,
I would
John.
be happy.
Thank you for great information, John. I have some questions here from our audience.
Okay.
Let's see. Doreen Rajamoni is making a comment, I think, and that is, and also a question. With the availability of vaccines, can it lower the anxiety among people during the pandemic? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think so. I think the vaccines are really very important. Also, if you have both vaccines at some point in time, it may be even a question that an employer may ask, that do you have proof that you've been vaccinated? Because there are certain employers that require that you have the vaccine. For example, maybe school teachers, maybe healthcare workers. So I think getting the vaccine would certainly lower people's anxieties, because now there are several strains of not flu, but the COVID-19, the South African strain, the British strain, there's a Brazilian strain, and these are now unfortunately already showing up here in California. So it's interesting to be aware of this. I received an email from one of the supervisors of Riverside County to get a inoculation, and by the time I filled out the paperwork, people had already signed up for it. So I was out of luck, but I'm going to get those shots as soon as I can.
Right. Thank you so much, John, for the response. Mr. Ahmad Muhammad Pantami had actually he raised a hand, so let me have him ask a question directly. Mr. Pantami? Well, we don't hear from Mr. Pantami. So John, can you talk a little bit more about because it seems like there's always a concern about running out of money during the retirement, right? I mean, a lot of people are, in fact, I was listening to news, and in the news said that 6% of the people who are retired, they have not paid off their student loans. So they basically garnish the Social Security check and then get remaining. So it's really difficult for people, especially if they're retiring. And issues like now, because of pandemic, kids are coming back. So you're retired, now you have to spend money on your kids. Or sometimes maybe one spouse is sick and you're spending a lot of money on home health care. So can you talk a little bit more about that, how to overcome financial anxiety? Because lots of people in retirement have a financial anxiety. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, certainly taking action and getting either a part-time or full-time job can help with anxiety. If you're afraid of running out of money or you're living on fumes, so to speak, I think that's important. I think the other thing important is to, if you're not retired yet, is start saving either 20% or 15% of your weekly paycheck or monthly paycheck, however you're paid. Let's say you're 55 and you want to retire at 65, start saving 15 to 20% right now of that money. That is going to help tremendously. The other thing that a lot of people are doing now are delaying their retirement checks from Social Security. So they're waiting until 70 years of age, as I am, to take the payment as opposed to taking it at your full retirement age, which is typically 66 or 67 now. And if you do that, you will increase the monthly payment for about $1,000. Instead of retiring at 66, you wait until you're 70. In my case, I will be increasing my payment by waiting 4 years, $1,000 per month. So that is a very, very important strategy.
Right.
And, you know, when I was retiring, I was thinking, well, geez, I need something to live off of. Well, I have a pension, but I'm going to be living off my pension instead of taking Social Security early. And I think that's a wise idea, especially in my situation, because I want to live to probably be 90 as my parents did. And so I've got to save up some money.
Right.
So
right.
I'm going to delay at least until 70. And if you do that, in my situation, I discovered that I break even at 80.
Yeah.
So if I die at 78, I'm behind the 8 ball. I didn't get as much money out of Social Security as I thought I would. But if I live to 90, I've got 10 more years of getting $1,000 a month more.
Right.
So that's a very important savings.
Right. But how about, I mean, sometimes people have to retire before 70, like let's say 60. Any thoughts on like doing something from home or like you are doing? Any other ideas can you share with people? Because that's a big concern for a lot of retired people.
Yes. As I mentioned during the presentation, some people are doing retail sales from home this way. Some people like myself are doing consulting opportunities this way. I think some people may have a home business and are making art crafts. And there's a site called Etsy, ETSY.com, where people can set up a little shop and they can sell their goods online. And it has to be something, I believe, of artistic quality as opposed to, you know, selling air conditioners
right
on there. So that is a great way. I have a friend who she makes jewelry, and she has set up an Etsy shop on Etsy selling her handmade jewelry, and she's doing very, very well now in retirement doing that. So those are some things. The other thing that people might want to consider is looking at a international location to move to. If you are really strapped for cash, for example, the cost of living in Portugal is 50% less than the United States.
Right.
So if you decide that you could move to Portugal, and it's not difficult to do, you have to jump through a few hoops, but you could be saving yourself an awful lot of money. The average apartment, for example, with a seaside view, is about $500 a month in a town south of Lisbon. And so you might do that. There are other places like Ecuador, Panama. Panama is touted as a great city just south of the United States to move to, where the cost of living is much cheaper. So those are some things that are kind of radical moves, suddenly picking up and moving to another country. But a lot of people do this. And you can go on YouTube and you can say, retire in Panama, retire in, you know, Portugal. And you can watch these videos of people who've done it. And it's very reassuring to say, well, it's not that difficult. It's not that scary, because I've even thought of that. But for now, I plan on living here in the United States.
Well, the other issue comes up, John, about the health. So let's say people move to another country like Ecuador or places like that. What happens to their Medicare? Can they continue to get the Medicare health support from the U.S. government?
No, I don't believe so. However, for example, private healthcare insurance in Portugal for a couple of two, a spouse and their spouse, per year is around only $2,000. And so that's a bargain. And you get private health insurance. And in Portugal happens to be the 17th best healthcare system in the world. And the United States is beyond 50. So you can compare those results. Thailand is another great place for medical destinations. So I have known some people who've gone to Thailand for operations
Yeah.
because it's so much cheaper to have an operation if you don't have health insurance in Thailand.
Right.
So there are ways around this, but what you want to do is make sure that you check what the medical reputation of a country is, and make sure that you take a look at whether they're a top 20. That's a good bet that the healthcare system is fairly decent if it's a top 20 healthcare system.
Right. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Let me open the other people in the audience to ask any questions. Jack, do you have any questions for John?
No, I don't at this time. I'm good. Those are absolutely, the websites are definitely ones I want to visit. Those, are very interesting. I really like the volunteer match. It's never too late or early to start something like that.
Right. Yeah. No, there's so many resources out there. When I was putting together this presentation, and I have done presentations similar to this a couple of years ago, I actually had a 2-weekend course out in Palm Desert at the University of California campus there. I researched and found so many resources available to people. So if you can get online and find so many resources to any questions that you have, whether it's healthcare, whether it's moving to a different country, there are really a wide variety of resources out there. And certainly AARP caters tremendously to people over 50. It was amazing. When I was back in the Boston area, I turned 50, and that week there was a piece of mail that came into my mailbox that said, join AARP. So they know when everybody in the United States turns 50, apparently. So,
Yeah.
And that's a good organization to belong to. I have belonged to AARP since I've been 50, and there are discounts available through there and lots of good advice. So I think it's a great nonprofit organization that does a lot of lobbying work actually in DC for elderly populations.
Great. Well, if there are any other questions from the audience, please ask. Otherwise, I think the information you provided, John, has been excellent and very useful and timely information, especially for people who are about to retire or they have already retired. So thank you so much for sharing a wisdom, knowledge of years of experience, and I find it very useful. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And with that, this concludes our seminar for retirement.